I'm back to a bike shop again. Thanks to Dave, he's now fixing my wheel. But what this episode is all about this Chinese wheel build. So if you want to save money but avoid disappointment, watch this video till the end. We'll catch you later. Well, you know, in recent years, there has been a number of Chinese brand wheels coming into the market. Of course, they are much cheaper than our well-known brands such as Zip, DT Swiss, etc. So I have a pair of ProX wheels from China, which I've used it for a year on over 3,000 kilometers. Today, I'm getting Dave to rebuild the wheels and upgrade the hub. So it is time to reveal what 3,000 kilometers has done to these wheels and see what it can get in terms of quality. So let David to do the inspection and share it with us more. So Dave, what are we doing here?
So what I've done is I've taken the old hub out of your current wheel and we're looking to rebuild it. There's a lot of different methods, a lot of people do different things as it relates to rebuilding a wheel. What I do is I make a small little map of the drive and non-drive side.
Let's look at the map.
That's very rudimentary, just to make sure that the spokes go back in the same position. I obviously ensure that I have the rim in the non-drive and drive side, so I understand which way it was when it's from the beginning. So when I put it back together again, it's basically the same as what it was. Well, hubs are pretty much, well, I wouldn't say a standard thing, but most of them are pretty straightforward. You have your spoke ends to it. They'll be straight pull or J pull, some of them being T-barred. The tension of the free hub sometimes differs from hub to hub. Obviously the way it's put together, quality will always come into play. As it relates to, I want to say the lower end cyclist, the everyday cyclist, the guy that puts out the 200 watts, does a good ride.
Yeah, just like me, just a top 300 watts.
So it's a really good hub, but in saying that, if you start putting these under load like the big boys do,
yeah, like 600-700,
then yeah, it might come into play that these will not stand up.
All right, we're progressing well, are we?
Yes, we're getting there. Half of the drive side is laced, so we'll start lacing the other half of the drive side and then start tensioning them up evenly. What you want to do is get to a point where all of them have an even tension and your wheel is still pretty much true. Because what you need to do is you need to center the wheel not only obviously vertically but horizontally as well. But yeah, it's progressing, we're getting there.
Isn't it the lacing is the most tedious things?
No, we'll come to that shortly. The lacing is pretty bad, but when you start truing it, you try to get the tensions correct, and yeah, that's, in my opinion, the most tedious part of it.
All right, we got the wheel lace.
Trying to get to the blades that they're all facing
the right direction.
Yeah, the moment I feel some light tension on the spoke, I'll move on to the next one, just to make sure everything is staying pretty much centered and where we want it. Part of my mapping process is also, each manufacturer has a recommended spoke tension that will depend on the material, the thickness, and obviously the type. So if it's a stainless steel round spoke and it's a 12 gauge, recommended 85 kilograms of force, which relates to a different setting on each tool.
Can you true this wheel without taking the rim tape off?
No, not this one, because you need to hit both of because it's a split nipple, so you have a side that you have to hold on to, and then the top end you need to turn. And I think the reason for that is because it's carbon. So the carbon's not it's a very hard material, it doesn't flex much, so if you crack it, it stays cracked. Where this one, if you use the nipples there, obviously the nipples allow you to grab one end of it and then true from the other end. So this one, the rim tape's coming off.
So every time you need to, if it's out of true,
yep,
rim tape has to come off.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a hassle.
Yeah, well, it's a price you pay.
Are you telling me it's true?
No,
straight away at the get-go?
What I want to show you is, or speak about, remember I said you need to true it on the vertical plane as well as the horizontal plane. Now spinning it on the horizontal plane and the bottom of the true stand, it looks pretty close to where it needs to be. So now all we need to start working on is getting the tensions of its spoke correct and then getting it true as corrected.
That's good.
Yep.
Halfway through there.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to tension each spoke to around 10 kilograms of force, and then we'll start adjusting each one as we go along. As part of my mapping system, the drive side was at 15, the non-drive side was at 20, according to this meter. There's a conversion chart that comes along with. Depending on the spoke type, the material it's made of, that's actually the tension in kilograms force. And that's just a reading, so the conversion's down the side of it. But like I said, previously in my mapping, I checked the average of the non-drive and I checked the average of the drive, so I'll be getting.
So you already got the reading?
Yeah, pretty much. So I know what I'm looking for, so that's what I'm going to aim for, and from then we'll move along. I'm getting up to the tensions the tensions that were on the spokes before we started the process. So we're doing it, obviously trying to do it, go around, make sure we're trying to do it as even as possible. She's still a bit off, but she's way better than she was. Hopefully the next time you put your camera on it, it'll be dead straight.
Putting the rim tape on.
Which is always fun. Might be easy if I sit down. I might get a lot of stick for cutting off it straight as well. Most people cut them at an angle, but I don't find any difference. So I might get a... There you go, mate. Wheel rebuilt.
So thanks, Dave, for fixing the wheel and rebuilding it. Since you have first hands-on experience, you can share what you make out of the wheel, when you inspect it, when you rebuild it. Now let's starting with the quality. How do you find it?
Well, I find the quality quite very much the same as anything else I've worked with.
Even compared to expensive like DT Swiss stuff?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you just observe and you look at the quality and you hold the stuff, there's not much difference you can pick up. Not in the workshop. Not by feel. There's obviously a lot of building material that comes into play that will change the quality of the bike. Bearings, for instance. You have sealed bearings, you have ceramic bearings.
Yeah.
Those type of things you don't see, but you feel it as you go along, and that's where the quality comes in.
Can you feel this ceramic bearing in there?
Well, it sounds pretty good. And it feels pretty slick. So again, without putting massive test measures on the bike's wheels, you're not gonna, the average Joe on the road, he's not gonna know the difference between the DT
like
Swiss
me
and
not putting up massive 5,000 horsepower.
Correct. Or but to be fair with that said, when you buy a set of wheels, obviously there's a few safety features you need to keep in mind. A lot of the carbon manufacturers say you need nothing over 100 kilos should be riding the bike, and then you put the power to it as well.
That gives you incentive to lose weight, hey?
Yeah, pretty much. Technically, me on a bike, I'll have to look at something like that before I buy a set of wheels. So yeah, off the bat, just looking at the wheel, picking it up, working with it, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of guys that's going to tell me that they can tell the difference between a DT Swiss and that bike, that wheel, if they're just working with it and it's not labeled. It's going to be difficult.
And what do you feel about the components, the rim itself, the spoke, the hubs?
Well, the rim and the hub feels pretty good. Spokes, yeah, I'm not a fan of the dual
carbon.
Yeah, well, that one of them, I'm not a big fan of carbon because it's not malleable. It doesn't bend. It's pretty rigid. If it bends, it breaks. So there's nothing play around. Yeah, I broke two of them, but that's my whole point. Yeah. If you put in a metal spoke or a stainless steel spoke and you work with it, it's a little bit easier to do it with. Yeah. And the dual nipple configuration on the wheel, yeah, it's a bit...
You say you're not a fan of it? Why?
Nah, it's a lot of work. So for me to
Can you articulate a little bit more on
So if I take this wheel and I need to true it, something's wrong, something's gone out of whack, I need to take the tire off, I need to take the rim tape off, and then I need to true it with two tools. So I have to hold the nipple external one, then I have to use an internal tool to tension it or detension it, one of the two. Where a typical configuration is I'd put it on the truing stand, I'll be able to use one tool, true it up, and be ready to go.
So you're saying that you need two tools, so does it mean that I cannot sort of tension and adjust the tension without taking the rim tape off?
No, you won't be able to do that.
So absolutely no go on?
No worries, no. Right. No go, not with a carbon nut.
Okay, so with that, I've been abusing it for about a year now. How do you find the trueness? Does it hold up well?
Yeah, the wheel doesn't look too bad. Visual inspection's pretty easy. Doesn't look like there's any cracks. It held up, it was pretty straight when I took the rim off. Again, it should be. There shouldn't be any deviation on that. There's no cracks, nothing like that, so yeah. It held up pretty well.
So Dave, are you telling me I wasted all my money on expensive wheels?
No, I'm not saying that at all. It's you get what you pay for. Your DT Swiss will last you a lot longer than what this one will last you potentially, depending on how you use it, weather conditions, how much power you're putting on.
Not much.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to you. Development on this wheel of this company may be 3 years in the making. This is 10 years. At some stage it'll start to catch up, and then the difference will become marginal. As it relates to the new and the old type of wheels, when the average Joe rides a bike, he's not going to feel the difference of any gains of wattage between this wheel and this wheel. The pros, yes, maybe they'll understand if they ride this one, they'll be getting, I don't know, maybe losing 8 watts, and when they're riding this one, they'll be gaining 16 watts. It's just, it comes down to design, how it operates. Then there's a lot of work, obviously, in each one of these wheels. There's a lot of time spent on each of these wheels, but yeah.
So would you say like that, like for every bulk wouldn't be feeling the differences, they should not be buying top end?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. You get, again, I'm going to reiterate what I said, you get what you pay for. If you buy this set of wheels, it may last you 3 years, may last you 5. But you buy that one again, it may last you 10 to 15 years. So the higher quality wheel you buy, it's going to give you longevity, it's going to give you performance. You may not notice it, but it is there. And it's going to, in the long run, maybe cost you less money because of maintenance that you have to go through on the wheels.
In terms of maintenance, what kind of maintenance are you talking about? Just bearings?
There's not a lot you can do on the wheels itself except for the bearings and making sure they're pretty much true all the time, but obviously inspect them quite often. Make sure there's no cracks on the rims itself, make sure the spokes are not loose, and that's an easy check. All you do is you squeeze the spoke. If it moves excessively, yeah, you've got a problem. And that will probably give you away. If you start spinning the wheel, you'll see it's out of true and it'll start to wobble.
See wobble, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And in terms of the overall wheels, and if you were to put your money on it, how much will you pay for it? Considering now you have an inside experience of what this built.
Well, yeah, again, make sure when you buy the wheels it has you within the safety parameters. But probably about 1,000, 1,500, be a good price. Yeah,
US, that's pretty good. I've got this set at about 900, 950, including shipping.
No, that's a good price.
I think that's pretty good.
So
can't complain.
Yep.
All right. So come down to this. Let's say I have $1,000 to spend. Would you be recommending going for something like this, a carbon Chinese sort of unbranded, versus something like a Shimano sort of cheap training wheels? What's your thought on that?
No, that's the thing. That's a difficult question to answer because it'll become down to personal preference. If you're looking at 1,000, and again, I'm not going to pick on Shimano, I'm not going to pick on DT Swiss. If you go and buy a $1,000 DT Swiss wheel, it's probably going to be a less performing wheel where this one will feel a lot better and look a lot better as well. So again, if this wheel suits all your requirements, looks, safety requirements, and it's within your budget, yeah, and you're the average Joe who does, again, not picking on anybody, 50 to 200 kilometers a week. It's not putting out
It's like me.
It's like me these days. He's not putting out 600-700 watts. It's a great wheel. It's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. A lot of people can put out 600-700 for half a second.
But it's not going to be for 2 or 3 hours consistently, or an hour even, or half an hour. It's going to be little bursts of speed. And to be fair, again, quality looks great. I can't fault it, not visually.
So what would you ride on this?
I first check the safety weight, obviously, and then if it complies, I'd ride it.
Yeah, what do you mean by safety rating?
My weight rating.
Yeah.
So there'll be, most manufacturers put out a weight rating on a wheel, and it's just to make sure that obviously it stays intact and the structure isn't compromised in any way. And yeah, because all you don't need is when you're riding the wheel, fails underneath you and you're going 30 clicks an hour, it's going to be an abrupt stop. So yeah, if that wheel will hold my weight along with my bikes, I'd happily ride on it. So
what happened if the wheel, if you ride beyond the safety limit?
Well,
what could happen?
You have a lot of tension on the spokes, obviously. If it's not designed for, the rim will be under tension that it's not designed for. You could have a catastrophic failure, which means either the brake, this rim is going to break and crack and spokes are going to come out, or the spokes itself is going to break. If that happens, it can fail in such a way that it actually seizes on the ride, and that's going to be quite unfortunate. Well, yeah, it's gonna. If it's a front wheel, it's going to be quite difficult to keep you upright. If it's a back wheel, maybe just drag behind you.
Slide out.
Yeah.
If you're cornering, you just slide out. Yeah.
Correct. So again, I'm pretty big on making sure the safety side of the house is where it should be before you do anything, brakes, wheels, frame, anything.
No, that's good to be safe.
Yeah.
Then sorry, and see you in hospital.
Yeah, correct.
Dentist bill. Dentist bill is cheaper to buy the right stuff than paying for dentist.
Yes, by a long shot.
And I do notice, I feel more of a difference on the tires. Like
Yes.
for example, when I initially popped the 30Cs on, man, it's like riding on a cruise ship. It is so amazing.
Yeah. It does. This rolling resistance comes into play, pressures come into play. Again, each tire will give you a pressure preference according to your body weight, and then, but again, you don't have to. I don't like riding 28s and 32s personally because it's very squishy. I like riding your 25s. Sometimes on a 23 when you're riding 110, 100 psi. Yeah,
that is very bumpy.
But it comes down to personal preference.
If you have a good bump, then
Knock yourself out. Yep.
You have the choice. I don't like.
Yeah, and again, that makes a massive difference on the quality of the quality of the ride. If you want to be comfortable, you want to do 110 k's, and that's how you want to ride it. That's how you ride it. Yeah. If it's me, I'm not too comfortable on a squishy tire.
Squishy, okay. Cornering, particularly cornering.
It's a bit hairy.
You feel it.
Yeah, it gets a bit hairy.
So thank you very much, Dave.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Hopefully, this wheel will stay good for a long time.
Yeah, well, you know where my shop is, man.
Great. Well, kudos to David, and thanks for his help. Now I've got the wheel back, and I'm really glad. Quality of this Chinese wheel brand is probably quite on par with some bigger, well-known brand. And he said if you put them side by side, he wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at it or feeling it which one is which. So kudos to this Chinese manufacturer, but buying this wheel do have a little bit of drawback. So let's start with the buying process. So when I first ordered, they only accept certain currency, otherwise you need to pay a little bit of exchange fees on top, so something to be aware of. So what they advertise initially to what you actually eventually pay could be a little bit different. Then I think the last one I'll wrap up with the customer service, which you don't come across often usually, but when you come to have a situation throw into, let's say, a warranty claim, which I did with them, nothing fault on the product, but you know, whenever you buy a product, you would have a chance of manufacturing defects and all that kind of stuff, which is acceptable as long as you get a good replacement policy, which I think they do have a good length of cover. For this Carbon ProX wheel, the warranty cover is 2 years, but something I find really awkward is the shipment period for the warranty is only 3 months. What does it mean is that if you find a defect and you submit a warranty claim after 3 months, unfortunately you have to pay your shipment again, which is a little bit of a bummer, but considering the low price of the product, I think that is quite reasonable, quite acceptable. It was a bit of a lengthy process, and they eventually told me they ran out of the stock. They want to replace it with a different stock, which is an upgrade. That is absolutely fine for me. So if this is the only wheel that you have got, you're probably not going to be riding for a long period of time. Think about it. If I can wind back the time, would I buy it again? My answer is quite positive, yes. So as long as you know some of these quirks that I outlined about the sales process and customer service process, the product is relatively decent, and you know, wheel doesn't really go wrong. You can run it for a very long time. So that's it for today. Enjoy this video. Please hit the subs and keep on pedaling. Bye for now.